Hey everyone! So I wanted to put together a video today of all of the garden tasks that I plan to do this month of January. Now you will see videos of me actually doing this, but I figured it'd be helpful if I compiled everything into one and posted it just in case there are some of these tasks that you want to do as well. And if there's other things that you do in January, let me know down below in the comments because I very likely have missed something too. So this is going to be specific, obviously, to my garden, which is rooftop container gardening, and it is specific to my zone, which is growing zone 6A still. And we typically don't plant anything outside until around the middle of May to be safe. So there's a lot of time between now and actually getting my plants outside. So here are some of the things that are on my to-do list for this month for January. Now, I would have posted this earlier, but we were actually in Florida, and we always like to try to escape somewhere warm in the winter in Chicago if we can, but the December weather was so mild, much warmer than average, that I still wasn't craving the warmth as much, but I still enjoy the 70-degree weather. So in the future, I will try to post these videos a little bit earlier. I'll probably do one for February as well as for March and April. Once the plants do get outside, it's kind of like a free-for-all, so I don't necessarily have monthly tasks that I know I'm gonna do, but I will go through right now the ones that I plan to do for January. First up is one of my favorite things to do at the start of a new year, and that is purge. And I don't mean like the horror movie, I mean getting rid of clutter that has been in my home for too long. So pretty much I feel like during the garden season, I'm so focused on garden tasks, I will throw things kind of wherever, so things might be spread out. I have things that I know I didn't really use as much as I thought, so I probably don't need going forward. So what I like to do is just go through everything. So all of my gardening supplies and plants are basically in this space right here, which is on the top floor of our home, because the gardens are right outside that door over there and the door over there. So it makes sense to keep everything on the same floor. So I'm just gonna go through everything. I'm gonna go through plants. I think there are some plants I'm gonna get rid of that might surprise you. I'm gonna go through containers. I'm gonna go through gardening supplies, get rid of anything that I do not need. It's also great to get organized because sometimes I will think that I need to order like a refill of something and then I find it in a random cabinet somewhere. So I like to get everything out, organized, get rid of things I don't need, and then put everything back in its place. That way, when I'm ready to seed start, well, I am seed starting a little bit earlier this year, but I'm ready to seed start and get everything going. I know where everything is. I know what I have. I don't need to worry about, oh, I want to start seeds today, but I don't have any seed trays. And that brings me into my next January task, which is to order the supplies that I need for my garden this year. Now, I'm obviously gonna wait until after I organize for this so that I know what I do and don't need. But typically at the beginning of the season, I'll get like new peat pellets for my seed trays to start the seeds because that's the way I like to start my seeds. I will fill up on the fertilizers that I use. I like the Fox Farm fertilizers. I just happen to start with it gardening. I like the way that they have different fertilizers that are clearly labeled for like different points in the growing season. And sometimes I've had an issue with fertilizers that I love. Oh, also Espoma. I think Espoma is more the one that will run out, but I'll have a hard time getting it closer to the garden season. So I'd rather order it now, have it stored, and that way I don't have to worry about it once I'm kind of in the swing of things. I also like to get containers at this time too, because typically I will find that the prices are a little bit cheaper than they would be as you get closer to garden season. And again, I don't want to have a plant that I know I need to pot up and not a pot for it. So for example, I think I showed one of the pots that I'm going to use for my hydrangeas. I need to get at least 2 more of those for the hydrangeas that I still have in the garage in their nursery pots. So I like to go through and just make sure the products that I truly love, I have on hand. Now, obviously, I probably will reorder some of these throughout the season, but I like to know that I'm starting off with everything that I need. Along with ordering items for the garden, I also want to make sure I have all the seeds. So I did go through and show you the 2024 seed haul for this season. There's a few more that I still need to order. And after that, I'm going to try not to order anymore because I don't have space, but I guarantee I'm going to pick some up randomly like at garden centers throughout the season too, or leading up to the season. So we'll see how that goes and how many extra plants I sow this year. But I don't mind it because every time I've had too many plants, I just give them away and that makes people happy. So that makes me happy in return. Now with ordering more seeds, I'm not 100% sure. Actually, no, I think I do need to do it this month. I have a seed schedule doc that I fill out every year. I list all of the seeds that I'm growing that year. It'll have information as far as when I'm starting it inside, when it can move outside, anything special about the seed that I need to do, like for example, soaking it for 24 hours beforehand. I will link the doc down below. I have a video, I think from 2 years ago, of how I use it. It's just a Google spreadsheet. I love me some spreadsheets, but it's a Google spreadsheet. It's really easy to use. There's some formulas in there that will automatically like calculate seed starting date, moving outside date for you. But I plan to film it this year as well. I didn't film it last year. I will plan to film it this year too, so you can see how I fill it out. But if you want to get started now, I will link all of that below so that you have it. Now, the reason I need to get that doc filled out is because I actually am, for the first time ever, starting seeds inside in January. So I saw some Lisianthus last year at a garden show, and I think either that day or the next day, I ordered some seeds. I've never grown Lisianthus before. I had no idea about what it took. And then I realized after getting the seeds that you have to start them super early. In fact, some people in my growing zone start them in December. And had we not been in Florida, I think I would have done that too. So I am gonna start a round of seeds inside in January. We'll see how it goes. I am excited. I'm excited to try Lisianthus. I always like trying something new, but I'm also a gardener who really loves things that are easy. So we'll see how it does this year. And if the extra effort required is worth the flower for me, then I will continue. And if not, I will just donate the rest of the seeds that I have. But I am excited to see how this goes. I think I'm also gonna start some Gomphrena in the same round because the seed trays I use are large enough where I'm not gonna fill every cell with Lisianthus because again, my garden is relatively small. So I think I'm gonna do like half Lisianthus, half some variety of Gomphrena. Typically I start Gomphrena in March. It's a little bit slower, takes a little bit longer to bloom. So I'm gonna see what happens starting some in January. I still plan to do the majority of them in March, but I'm excited for this little experimentation. Now on that, I know a lot of people do winter seed sowing in jugs, and around this time, that's probably one of the questions I get asked about the most is if I do that, and I don't, or at least I haven't yet. And the main reason why is I just haven't felt like it. And I think when there are things that come to gardening, you can see a lot of other people doing it and make it feel like you also need to do it. But if it's something that you don't really want to try yet, I think that's okay. What I'm expecting to happen is that eventually I will try it and I will wonder why I haven't been doing this all along. But I really do like having a rest in January of like not really having to do anything or much of anything outside for the garden. I also don't have a lot of like milk jugs on hand or water jugs. Most of what we have comes in like paper containers. So I think maybe if I also had the supplies readily available, I would do it, but it's supposed to be super easy. It's supposed to work super well. So I will also link down some resources for people that I know that do winter sowing in jugs. And again, I know like 2 years from now, I'm gonna do it and I'm gonna wonder why I haven't been doing it for the last 5 years that I've been gardening. Well, is this year 6? I think this is gonna be year 6 of container gardening for me. So we'll see. If you do winter jug sowing, let me know down below. Let me know if it's something I 100% definitely should do, and maybe I'll start some random ones. But again, I feel like if I wanted to do it, I would, and I just don't have that urge yet. But I'm sure it'll happen at least some season. Next on my list is to continue checking in on my garage plants. So in late November, early December, again, this fall was much warmer than normal. So my perennial plants took a lot longer to go dormant than they normally do. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, at least 7, I think, hydrangeas. Most are in nursery pots. Some are already in their regular pots. I have 2 columnar apple trees. I have at least 1 rose bush. I have a bergania. Oh, and then all of my tulip bulbs. So all of those are currently in the garage. And the main reason I store them in the garage is more for excess moisture, than it is for the cold weather. A lot of the plants that are in there can actually handle being in containers with the cold temperatures in our zone. But what I've realized over the last few winters here is that the soil typically stays too moist throughout the season or throughout the winter. and it's cold, so it's not like that moisture is evaporating or drying up as much as it would in the heat of the summer. And that causes root rot. I've had my tulip bulbs go mushy. That's why the ones in my raised beds right now I've tarped to see if that works. And that's why the ones in the pots are currently in the garage. And it just hasn't been a great experience for me trying to leave things out. So yeah, either bulbs rotting, root rot on the plants. I'm erring on the side of caution and keeping them in the garage. So what I've been doing since moving them in there, I mean, anytime I go to the car, I'll take a look at them and make sure they look okay. But I've just been like sticking my finger in the soil and seeing if any of them are super dried out. I think so they've been there maybe for a month and a half. I think I've only had to water some of the hydrangeas in the nursery containers because those are still very small. I don't plan to water the tulip bulbs at all until they start to sprout and I move them outside. I haven't had to water anything else. Everything else is still fairly moist. If I stick my finger down, the soil is already damp. So I haven't had to water them. And last year, when I kept things in a covered plastic greenhouse, I don't remember, I either watered nothing or I watered like some things one time. So the plants really do stay moist even when they're not getting excess moisture from snow or rain over the winter. So for me, it is important for the survival of my plants to keep them protected from too much rain or too much snow over winter. But I've just been checking on them. It's super low maintenance. They're just sitting on a table. And then once the weather starts to get warm enough, I will bring them up and put them outside. But again, that probably won't be until, oh, my dahlias. Can't believe I forgot about my dahlias. So my dahlias are down there as well. Those I will bring up in April. Yeah, usually early April to pre-sprout, give them a head start, but everything else probably won't come up until they're ready to go outside in May. Now, this next task is very specific for me, but I am starting my next round of horticulture classes to get my horticulture certificate from the University of Illinois. So I'm excited about that. Right now, I'm signed up for 2 classes, and that would allow me to complete my certification, but just with timing. So it's part-time, I'm not a full-time student. They're just done kind of at night or when I have free time on the weekends. So I'm already thinking I might have to drop one and move it to next semester, but we'll see. But I am excited to start another class. I'm also taking a botanical drawing class through the Chicago Botanic Garden just on my own for fun. That should be starting here in a few weekends. So that is what's on my January to-do list. Now, obviously, if you have a yard, you might have a few extra tasks, and there's a good resource, the Chicago Botanic Garden, if you are in the Chicagoland area. They actually put together monthly checklists, so I will link down their list for January below. But for me, I pretty much don't go out to my decks at all in the winter because there's nothing out there that I really need to check on. I do have my 2 holly trees that are zone 5, and because it's been so mild so far, I think they're still thriving out there. And other than that, I think it's just plants that I'm still waiting to pull until spring. So it is kind of nice. I like, again, having this downtime. I know a lot of people are itching to get back into garden tasks, but for me, I like being able to just relax a little bit, kind of doing those things inside and preparing for the season without having to worry about doing too much yet in the garden. So like I said, let me know what else is on your list for this month, and I will see you in the next video, which I think it's probably going to be the video where I purge some plants. So I will see you in the next one. Bye.